So this is our time when we usually have our inspirational interval, and I'm going to take Chris's song right there as our inspirational interval today, because one of the things that we've talked about with the inspirational intervals is, what moves you? We all have different things that move us in our life, and it can be a song, it can be a passage in a book, it can be a painting, it can be any number of things, and we've been encouraging each of you, if you feel so, to come up and share what inspires you, to take the few moments, a 3-minute time of your life to share with us in this community, to connect with us and let us know what it is that inspires you. Because what I've found, and maybe you have too, with different people who have been coming up and sharing what their inspiration is, what their interval is, that maybe some of that resonates with you, that strikes a chord with you in a way that maybe isn't the same for everybody, but I feel like every time that somebody gets up and shares, there's something that I glean from it. There's something that strikes with me. So this is a continued invitation to each and every one of you, if you feel so called, to come up and share, that this is the space and there's a time for it. And you can talk to me about it, you can talk to Reverend about it, or if you just want to be bold, there's a clipboard in the back of the church that you can put your name on. So that is there for you. And I thank Chris for sharing how that song, what it means to him, and kind of even made me think about it in a little bit different way today too. So I'm grateful for that. So today I'm going to be talking about a foundation of faith, and you can look at it as building a foundation of faith. You can talk about look at it as having a foundation of faith. Anything around a foundation of faith, wherever you are on that spectrum of how you feel about that foundation. And what I mean by this is, if we think about a foundation as an idea or principle that provides support for something, or the underlying support or structure, and then faith is what we believe in with strong conviction or confidence or our trust in something. So these ideas certainly are things that we talk about every week here at Unity, and that's the message that we're trying to just relate all the time, is that this faith is available to us each and every day if we so choose. And clearly by us all being here today, we want to have some of that foundation. This is our building. And although I think it's possible to, and it's certainly coming here on Sunday is a great step, and for being here, that's great. But the daily application, as Cynthia brought up, is, that's really what it's all about, is when we can get into a daily application of what our faith is, then that's what will build that foundation so that when things aren't going good, we have something that supports us. So for today, I'm going to use two resources, one of which we read from already today, which is the Daily Word, and another one which I've talked about before, which is Mark Nepo's The Book of Awakening. And I'm not saying that these are the only two sources, more as just an example of sources that you can use. And whatever your source is, that's what it is, but find it for yourself. Find that something that you can draw upon on a daily basis, that you can reflect upon, that you can use as a meditation, that you can discuss with other people. Whatever it is, I got to believe there's something for each of us, and for me, these are the two that are most prevalent in my life, and that's why I'm using them. But find that something that you can use as a daily application, and it certainly will help build that foundation. So I'm going to start off today reading from Mark Nepo's The Book of Awakening, and it's a passage entitled "Feeding Your Heart." No matter how dark, the hand always knows the way to the mouth, which is a Idoma proverb from Nigeria. Even when we can't see, we know how to feed ourselves. Even when the way isn't clear, the heart still pumps. Even when afraid, the air of everything enters and leaves the lungs. Even when clouds grow thick, the sun still pours its light earthward. This African proverb reminds us that things are never quite as bad as they seem inside the problem. We have inner reflexes that keep us alive, deep impulses of being and aliveness that work beneath the hardships we are struggling with. We must remember the hand cannot eliminate the darkness, only find its way to the mouth. Likewise, our belief in life cannot eliminate our suffering, only find its way to feed our heart. And what I like about this passage is it's talking about how many things, particularly like eating as the reference, that it becomes instinct. There's things that we do in our life that with enough practice and enough belief in them, that they become instinct. And this is that idea of foundation. And so that's really what we're looking for, is that we have this daily application that then allows us to draw upon the instinct of our faith, the instinct of believing that wherever we are in our journey, wherever we are in our day, however our mood strikes us, that the instinct is to go back to the belief in something greater, to this conviction that we can move through this. So that is going to lead me into then talking about faith, and I'm going to use the daily word. And what I like about the daily word is that it's short. It's very short. And so you can read it in the morning, and then I like to go back and read it again later in the day, and sometimes go through and maybe underline a passage that means something to you. So it's a tool that you can use in a lot of different ways. And again, your tool will be your tool. I'm just talking about, for an example, this one. So we'll start off with reading a passage about faith from the Daily Word. And the affirmation for this one, I like this one because it kind of just nails it on the head. I live in steadfast faith, knowing that my needs will be met. Through the seasons, I am reminded of the unlimited capacity to experience the presence of God within. With faith, I hold the keys to the kingdom that opens all doors to full and joy-filled life. Even though I have faith, I may need to call upon patience or strength. As I wait for a door to open, I may need to apply wisdom and understanding while making an important decision. Perhaps I will be guided to demonstrate unconditional love or conscious generosity. Many answers may come to me naturally and easily. Any assistance needed becomes available. Any divine idea comes my way with clarity. As I move through the seasons, I do so with excitement, with love, and with great faith. So I like the lines, my needs will be met. So if we can just believe that, know that our needs will be met, and that's a good thing to throw into our foundation. And then the other words that really stood out to me was patience and strength. It's not always easy, and so sometimes it's not abundantly clear, how am I going to get through this, or what's next? But that's that strength and patience and trying to see these things through. Because we're clearly going to become rattled. I mean, that's life these days. It's very hard to go through a single day without having something or someone kind of just test that faith in us. And so that's where we just have to affirm that our needs will be met. So now that we have this idea of faith, we have to then believe in it, right? I mean, if we can say all these things, but if we really don't believe it, then it's kind of an exercise in futility to have to say. So we have to come back to believing ultimately that there is something more. And, Reverend Cynthia has been saying this in one way, which is energy follows attention. And I've been chewing on this a lot, meditating on it a lot, trying to kind of have that resonate in me a little bit more. And another way that it's been stated is, as I believe, so I receive. Our energy follows our attention. As I believe, so I will receive that. And so I really like this one because I think this is what I'm just talking about, that daily life certainly challenges us. Spiritual truth exists whether or not I believe in it. Divine love is present whether or not I trust in it. Universal intelligence is available whether or not I rely on it. While I am grateful that Spirit is eternal and changeless, I recognize that my capacity to fully receive Spirit's bounty hinges on my faith. If, on reflection, I find that challenging times have clouded my belief in Spirit, I correct my thinking. I renew my belief in the eternal reality of spiritual abundance. I accept that God's bounty and grace are meant for all, including me. So I'm just going to stop there because I think that's the other thing that, if we can have that resonate, that it's meant for all, including me. Sometimes it's easy to say, all right, it's great for everybody else, but maybe not me today, maybe not that. But when we can include ourselves in this all, because sometimes, I don't know, I have a tendency to separate myself from the all, like for whatever reason I'm the exception to the case, or that maybe that doesn't apply to me. But I also, getting back to this idea that when we believe, and belief is a hard thing, in whatever it is that we're choosing to believe in, whether it's faith or God or belief that our kids are going to brush their teeth, I don't know, any silly thing, belief is hard because it's not always easy, you know. There are days, I'm quite honestly, that I'll read the Daily Word and I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know. And I get totally shaken, and that's okay. And that's the point I want to emphasize right here, is that it's okay to be shaken. It's part of life. And it's okay to not always be peaceful. It's okay it's not about perfection. Faith is not about perfection. But really, when we have this idea of faith and we start to believe in it, then it acts as a safety net. That then it does start to build into this idea of it's more of our instinct, it's more of our intuition, kind of like the hand finding the mouth. So when we start to believe, then it's there, even when we don't really believe it. It's something that we can draw upon. Like Dan said in the Daily Word today, you know, this idea that sometimes we may start to get agitated or whatever, but then this agitation that we have starts to be uncomfortable because it no longer feels right. Like this idea of faith and belief that we're starting to have, it then starts to be uncomfortable, and we're able to move out of it because, like, no, I don't want to choose that way anymore. I don't want to be left in this place of feeling rattled and mixed up. So that's where, when we start to believe a little bit more, may not always be there as the belief, but that foundation is getting stronger because we have set our intention that we are going to move forward with that. So we've got faith now, and we're starting to believe in it a little bit, and so now we want a little comfort, right? So comfort is certainly something that I think brings us all to want something more, to want this idea of faith, is that we want to feel comforted in our lives. We want to feel somehow better about the lives that we're living, why things are happening, and so we'll just look a little bit more into comfort. I'm comforted at the peace through the loving presence of God. The need for comfort is a basic necessity. From the moment we are born, we are comforted by a loved one's voice or touch. As we grow older, that need may be met in other ways, but the underlying need is the same. We want to know that we are not alone, that there is a person or a presence loving us and helping us in our time of need. God is that presence in my life, my loving comforter that brings strength and peace. In moments of fear or sadness, faith assures me that I am never alone. So, again, this idea that we are relating to another, I think knowing that our struggles are not ours alone, knowing that each of us has a struggle that we have in our life. It may not be the same struggle, and oftentimes we all have different things that we're going through. But this assurance, and I don't want to say misery loves company, but kind of along that idea that if we know that we all struggle, then in that regard we are all the same. You know, come together. You know, not just by being separated by appearance or whatever, but joined by this common experience of life that we all have. This common experience of being rattled, this common experience of being challenged in our beliefs and all of that. So I like to know that, again, instead of feeling like I'm exclusive or like, oh, my burdens are the heaviest or whatever, that, you know, if I can just think about, you know what, maybe my wife is having a bad day, and instead of like saying, oh, she's having a bad day or whatever, like, oh, I feel that. I know what it's like to have a bad day. So this idea of empathy then brings us comfort, because we know that we're not alone in this life that we're leading, that we're not alone in the struggle, that we're not alone in whatever we get lost in. And that because we're not alone, that's a way for us all to come together and connect. It's the idea of belief. Belief in one another, belief in the greater good. So then we'll want a little guidance. As we're comforted, we have our faith, we're starting to believe in it, we've establish this comfort with everybody. So guidance. And for guidance, I think this is one that I constantly draw upon. You know, it's easy to do our readings, and it's easy to, and maybe it's not easy, but we come to our Sunday services. But what else is there that's going to help us along our way? And so, from this daily word guidance, I am guided to new and fulfilling discoveries. Through the years, I received guidance from family, teachers, mentors, and more. There is also a deeper guidance that fills me with strength and peace, one that leads me to new and fulfilling discoveries, the direction I receive from spirit within, from faith. If I'm uncertain about how to proceed with difficult decision, or I feel uneasy or confused, I turn within and pray. During these prayerful moments with God, I receive the assurance that I am never alone, that I am always supported and guided by the one presence that is available to me at any given moment. Spirit is greater than any concern I may have. By turning within for this divine guidance, I have the assurance that I'm following the path that is right for me. So guidance comes from taking the time to slow down. When we take the time to turn within, I mean, we have to reflect upon what it is that we're bothered by, or reflect upon what it is that we want in our life. If we don't give time to that, then that guidance won't come, that voice won't be clear, that message won't be known, won't make itself evident to ourselves. So the guidance really comes, not only from our daily lives, but from the fact that we have to spend time with it. And that's where this daily application of faith really comes in. That the more that we commit ourselves to believing, to having faith, the more that we can find that guidance within ourselves, this idea of our intuition, this instinct that we talked about, like feeding our mouths, that we must take time to be there and acknowledge that. And so that then, with the guidance, where are these divine messages? And I really like this passage because I think it's something that we've talked about often here at Unity, is that the divine messages are available for us in our life if we really take time to look at it. Because our day is filled with messages, and it can be messages from one another, from social media or whatever, but there's also messages that come to us in our life. And what I believe divine message, how do you know if it's a divine message, is what's showing up in your world, what is challenging you. Well, I feel like the things that we're most uncomfortable with, the things that we feel that we want to have the most control over, are the things where our messages truly lie. And these are things that come as repeating patterns. Are you challenged in a certain ways? Are you a certain emotion evoked consistently in your life? I'll use my daughter as an example. She's 3 and she's very persistent, and she's blazing her own trail, which is great. I love that. I wouldn't ask for anything different from her. But there are times where we just need to do certain things. We need to get dressed so we can go out of the house. And, it's hard for me when she just won't, comply. She won't listen. I can't control that. And so this is a time in my life where I get very easily agitated, and I'm certainly finding a lot of patience with it out of necessity, but also as a practice as a spiritual practice. And so, that is a constant in my life, and I could continue to choose to just get really upset and yell and go crazy and try to control it, or I found as I soften it and I'm patient with it, that there's always another way. There's a path that I didn't see. And so that's what I mean. What's a repeating pattern in your life? And it may be some way that you're emotionally challenged, but it can be any other thing. Is there a certain ad that catches your eye? Is there a song that lyrics strikes you in a specific way? Anything that is a consistent thing that gives you that hook, that to me is a divine message, and those are the things that we can take time and be still with. And I think this, again, feeds into this idea of this becomes our intuition. If we can start to believe that these things are really there for us, that these messages are coming, and if we spend time with it, that we'll be guided into a different way. So, as we're looking at building our foundation, we really it's a matter of doing that daily application, believing not only in the greater spirit of the divine, but in the greater spirit of ourselves. We have to believe in ourselves that we have this ability and capacity to live our lives the way that we want to, that we can live a peaceful way, and that the divine messages are always there for us everywhere. And if we have that strong foundation of faith, that we certainly will be better armed, especially in the times that aren't great, to see through that, to have that perseverance. Because that's really what it is that we believe that we have the knowledge and the power and the strength to overcome and persevere. So find those resources for yourself. It could be the daily word, it could be the Book of the Awakening, it could be something as seeing animal totems. If you have a cardinal that shows up in your life, then do that. Or if you believe in the stars, then get a book on astrology. There's a lot of different things, and whether or not you fully believe in all those things, let it be a way to guide you, to just give you something, another way to look at something. And I think the greater of our perspective, the greater our understanding of life and how it can be. So tend to that foundation and foundation of faith, and it will certainly serve you much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take an offering for unity. I invite you to